All right, I want to make a quick video here about another special case of two-dimensional motion. We talked about projectile motion, which is a type of motion in two dimensions, but there's another special case that I think is worth talking about now, and that is uniform circular motion. I think everybody understands what circular means. We're moving in a circle. Just to understand what makes it uniform, this just means that the speed is constant. Speed is constant. I should probably pause here and just note that we would never make the mistake of saying that the velocity is constant, because the velocity is not constant. And that will kind of introduce what we're going to be discussing about uniform circular motion. The velocity is not constant. Why? Because the direction of the velocity vector is changing. Remember that velocity is itself a vector, meaning that it has a magnitude, a number, but also a direction. And if you're moving in a circle, your direction is constantly changing, and therefore your velocity vector is not constant, even if your speed is constant. So we're going to think about just the case where the speed is constant. Of course, the speed, that you could imagine a situation where the speed is not constant, and we will discuss that later in the year. So let's imagine maybe we'll start with a potentially a simple case. Maybe I've got a object moving in circular motion here. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's my car, and this would be like a top-down view of my car. There's my car, 4 wheels. Here's the front of the car. Here's my little muffler. And I'm moving, you can see here, in a counterclockwise fashion around this rotary or traffic circle. So if I were to determine, and here's the center of the circle here, we'll say, and if I were to draw the velocity vector at this point, I would draw an arrow. It's a straight line arrow this way. And I would put the V for the velocity vector, right? This is the velocity vector. It's directed at this point up. It is tangent to the circle. So sometimes you might see somebody write the V with a subscript T or TAN just to indicate that that velocity vector is tangent. That doesn't mean it's any special type of velocity. It's a normal linear velocity. It just happens to be tangent. At some later point, my car might be, say, here. Excuse me. Car might be here, let's say. Here's the car now. So now the direction of the velocity vector, it has changed, and now the direction of the velocity vector is that way. Maybe I'll try to neaten that up slightly. Direction of the velocity, again, tangent to the circle, is that way. And so my velocity vector has changed. You can see it was previously in this direction, and now it's in this direction. So that means, by definition, that the car has accelerated. So there is some kind of an acceleration here. And I'd like to think about what that acceleration vector is. Maybe actually we'll just, we'll think about it as a vector quantity. Now, first of all, before we even think about the magnitude, let's think about what the direction of the acceleration is. It's not immediately clear. We know that the direction of the velocity vector's changed, but the direction of the change is not obvious. And so just maybe to think about what that direction is, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remind us that anytime you have a change in something such as a velocity, it is the final minus the initial. So maybe I can just abstract out here the final and the initial. This is final. I'm going to call this final, and this is initial. So I'll say that this is V final here, and I'll say that this one here is V initial. So I'm going to write V final. V final was something like this. I'm just trying to imagine transposing this vector here. And in vector notation, when you subtract vectors, remember that that's the same thing. Maybe I'll write this here. That's the same thing as taking V final plus negative of V initial, right? That would be another way of writing this. So I'm going to take the negative of V initial. So here's this was V initial. The negative of V initial would just be the same length vector but down, directed downwards like that. And so now if I think about what the change in the vector is, we can see fairly straightforwardly that it started here, it ended here. So the change in the velocity, the delta v vector, is directed in this direction, which is, we can see on the picture here, if I were to then bring this vector back to the picture, that means the delta v vector on our picture here, to go back, would be in this direction. That's the delta v vector, is directed actually to the center of the circle. And that therefore has to be the direction of the acceleration vector as well. And so what I've tried to argue here, or prove to you, is that the direction of the acceleration is always directed towards the center of the circle. And we have a fancy word for this, pointed towards the center. The word here is, this is what's called centripetal. Centripetal. Don't get this word confused with another word. There's another word called centrifugal, which I'll talk about later after we talk about forces. Usually when people use the word centrifugal, they are making a mistake. Typically when they use the word centrifugal, they're referring to something that doesn't actually exist. So for right now, at least, I'd like you to sort of try to erase that word from your mind and think about this new word, centripetal, which just means center seeking, towards the center. So this is what we call a centripetal acceleration. And to note that, I might write this, as A sub C. And the sub C just indicates that it is centripetal. So just to review that again, the direction of the acceleration anytime an object is moving in a circle is directed towards the center of the circle. That is the direction of the acceleration at all times. Now, how about the magnitude? What if we wanted to calculate like the magnitude of that vector? What does it equal? It might stand to reason that it has something to do with how fast you're going. It also might stand to reason that it has something to do with how far away you are from the center of the circle. If you were to imagine what it would feel like, the amount of acceleration you would experience if you were a passenger in my car, if I were driving faster, you would feel a much bigger acceleration. And similarly, if I were going at a very small circle radius versus a larger circle radius, the smaller circle radius you'd feel more acceleration as well. And so those are the two factors that go into calculations of the centripetal acceleration. And I'm not going to prove this. It is provable, but I'm not going to spend the time now. And I'll just sort of tell you that the magnitude of the centripetal acceleration is equal to the speed squared divided by the radius r. And just to be clear here, that radius r is, of course, the radius here of the circle. Now, the r vector, if we wanted to define this as a vector, r is always a vector that locates the object, in this case the car, relative to the center. So the r vector is pointed, as I've drawn it here, the r vector is pointed from the center outward, which means if I wanted to go back and turn this acceleration, the centripetal acceleration, into a vector, to give a direction, I need to indicate that the direction of the r vector is exactly opposite from this direction right here. And I do that by introducing a unit vector, r roof, that's my unit vector, and I make it negative. And the negative combined with the r roof just tells me that at all times, that's fancy notation that just says at all times the direction of the centripetal acceleration is going to be inward, opposite from the direction of the r vector, which is outward. And the magnitude, again, is just this thing. So when you're doing calculations, all you need to remember is that the magnitude is v squared over r. Units, it is just a linear acceleration, so the units here are still meters per second squared. There's no other units that we need to worry about. So that's all I have to say right now about uniform circular motion. When we talk about forces, we'll revisit the forces involved in circular motion then.